Could you get a picture of me with it?
Oh, it's so beautiful. Come on.
Flex nights.
Thank you.
Flex nights. With a little ASMR experience, you know, because this city's pretty intense and yeah, this city's kind of intense. So if you wouldn't mind dimming the lights, if you feel free to participate. But I understand if you're too cool for school and you gotta maintain your cool image. I totally respect that. But if you want to participate a little bit, then feel free to close your eyes and relax and imagine you're on your way to the airport and you're ahead of schedule. You've already checked in your bags, so you don't even have to go to the gate. You go straight to security. You start taking off your shoes. They're like, you don't need to do that. You keep walking, get to your gate with enough time. Not too much time, but just enough time to get mentally prepared for your flight. You get on the flight. You get to your seat. It's plenty of leg room. They offer you a beverage. You take water, no ice, because you're just classy like that. And you drift off to sleep, and in your sleep, you're transported to 2004, 2005. You're watching Cartoon Network, Nickelodeon, SpongeBob, Dexter, Cat Dog, Hey Arnold, all your favorites, Rocco's Modern Life, and then, you know, you go back to Cartoon Network. It's really late now. You hear the drum and bass. You know what time it is. It's Toonami. So you're seeing anime like FLCL, Dragon Ball Z, Naruto has just aired. It's you know, it's a good time. It's a good time. I think you know, you wake up and you've landed. You get to your Airbnb, and the Wi-Fi is plainly written on the wall. It's easy to log in. The password is poopy butthole 69. You'll never forget that. And yeah, then you pull up to this university. You come to this room and you see your boy here getting ready to turn up. So y'all are pleasantly surprised and ready for a good presentation. You may now wake up and come back to reality. Hello, it's your boy, Jeron. Anywho, I just did that to sort of just take you in the mindset of where I got a lot of my inspiration from. And you know, 2004 was a big year for me as a person, because I was like, that's when I really got inspired by animation. And yeah, so I started off by just showing a film that I made, and then we'll get into the talk. Thank you. So yeah, that's my most recent work, just to give you some context about who I am and what I do, and what I'm about to talk about today. So me, born in Indiana, or born in Ohio, raised in Indiana, currently living out a suitcase, 24, August 3rd, Leo, self-taught animator, shout out YouTube, for real. And my favorite animators are Masaki Yuasa, Katsuhiro Otomo. Masaki Yuasa made Mind Game, Katsu, animated Shin-chan, Ping Pong, Devilman Crybaby, and Otomo did Akira. And my favorite color is green. Spirit animal, American mountain lion. Legend has it there's a lion and there's lions in California that breeded with like African lions that escaped from some dude's exotic ranch. So it's like this rare breed of like African American mountain lion. I don't know if it's true per se, but it's that's just word on the street. That's a legend. If that's a real animal, that's my spirit animal. Favorite element: lightning, Pokemon, Gengar. Favorite video games: Kingdom Hearts 2 and Jet Set Radio. And favorite film is Mind Game. My mom is a teacher, health teacher, so health is really big in my life, and she was a photographer before I was born, and kind of like when I was a kid, so that was kind of around me as far as the visuals. And my dad is a pretty accomplished musician, and so that, that's kind of where I got my music inspiration from. And yeah, I started playing music in orchestra when I was 12. I played the double bass, first chair, for like 6 years. And towards when I was about 15, I started making beats on FL Studios, and that's, yeah, FL was, at the time it wasn't really industry standard, but I feel like a great artist can use, the worst tools to make the best art. So yeah, I just used it because me and my friends, we saw Soulja Boy in a music video, or not a music video, but just some online video using FL, and we were like, okay, yeah, we're gonna go with that. So we started using FL, and also it was easy to steal offline. To this day, if you need the hookup, I can hook you up. But
11.
yes, I still use FL Studio. They're on FL Studios like 20. I'm still on 11, and mine's in Spanish, like because I got like some cracked version, and it doesn't have English. But you don't need to know Spanish when you're in the zone. You just transcend language, and that's what my work's all about, is breaking through. So that's what I use. And I use Blender for my 3D animation. And so today we'll just kind of talk about my inspiration, some concepts, and process. And I'll probably just breeze through the inspiration a lot because, it's mainly, animation. But like I said, 2004, that was like a really golden year for animation because there was FLCL came out, Samurai Champloo, Naruto, Kingdom Hearts 2, LimeWire was bunking, PS1, Sega. That's kind of what I played at the time. Couldn't really afford the PS2 at the time, but we had a PS1, we had Sega. And Sega was cool because you could literally copy video games onto a DVD, pop it into Sega, and then, so like I remember one day, my cousin's dad just went to like, like the hood, dude selling DVDs and movies and all that, and we bought pretty much every single game for the Sega Dreamcast, and like they were all just unmarked games and just had like Sharpies on them. So, it was like a cool time. It was just like a lot of cool media I immersed myself into, and and then I also was exposed to a lot of crazy stuff because the internet was wild. But I live for just watching Cartoon Fridays and Courage, Dexter, and what I'm saying, it was really cool. Really love Powerpuff Girls, and the Powerpuff Girls, they had like a cool drum and bass sort of theme song that I still to this day like. The Powerpuff Girls music is actually really cool because they have that the ending song is so good. The ending theme song, you guys should definitely listen to that. Look at Dexter and Mom all thick. They know exactly what they were doing back then. But yeah, Nickelodeon, it was cool, they were on this slime wave way before anybody else, and they had the jazz cup, and just this whole aesthetic was really nice and inspirational to me, and I like the imagination in Rugrats. Ren and Stimpy, very expressive and experimental. Watched this with my dad, and then Pokemon. I think we were all, if you were born in the 90s, you were caught in the Pokemon craze. You couldn't avoid it. And like this was sort of my first step into anime, and I was really, really enamored by the diversity and style in the Pokemon cards, you know, because like it was the first time I saw something like a scribble or whatever, and it was still considered like, you know, a commercial piece of art or what have you. And then they also had like cool 3D stuff, and you know, it was cool. Like the illustrations alone were really cool and big inspiration to me. Of course, the video games were big. You know, back in the day, the yellow Game Boy Color with the yellow Pokemon Yellow version, all Pokemon level 100. I was living good. And Dragon Ball Z, of course, you know, that was a big inspiration, and also a big sound inspiration. The sounds were just so lush and rich. Everything had a sound. When they would fly, when they would power up, and things of that sort, all very, very, very influential. And then FLCL, this was probably one of the best anime ever made. It's like 6 episodes long, but it's super cool. It has like a real cool style, and it had kind of like a sort of rock, almost even shoegazy sort of soundtrack that was really cool. And at the time, kind of, you know, like it kind of explored some interesting coming of age sexual things that excited me as a child, for sure. And then Samurai Champloo was really, really pivotal to me because, you know, I was, you know, raised Indiana, and Indiana, the Midwest, like has a way of making you just sort of just hate yourself and hate your like blackness, and it's just a really kind of like toxic environment if you're outside of like a white heterosexual Christian upbringing. You're kind of like, oh, you're weird, you're stupid, you should kill yourself. And so like that really you know, sort of made me sort of reject my culture and try to stay away from blackness and try to be as white as possible or whatever. But like I was really into anime, and then this whole soundtrack is like hip hop, and it's like hip hop themed, you know, like they'll transition from frame to frame by doing like a scratches, yeah, like a DJ sort of scratch, or you know, and like sort of the some of the dialogue would be sort of like a rap, and it was cool, and so I was like, like this is really cool, and really made me it provided me a different lens to look at my culture, and find an appreciation in it, and be like, oh, okay, like, so, you know, people actually do fuck with blackness, you know, to an extent, and sort of open the door to that. So it was kind of like a self-love thing with me, this show. And it's a cool show, and the animation is super sick. And my favorite animator even guest animated on one of the episodes, like, where I think they go to, they like burn down, like, weed, like a bunch of weed or whatever, so everybody gets high.
Oh,
and
the
gets,
whole town gets high.
yeah, Masaki Yuasa guest animated that, so that was really cool too. And I really liked Sailor Moon as well, and you know, it was really cool to me, like, cause it was just a cool show, you know, like that's when I really started to get these like gender norms thrust upon me, is cause it was like, oh, you like Sailor Moon, you're gay. And it was like, fuck it, dude. You don't like me anyway. You know what I'm saying? It's like, you're not gonna like me anyway, so I'm about to watch this shit. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not about to, like, watch football. Like, because it's not... Because, tangent, football is, I feel like, the gayest thing you can do. And, like, in the best way. And, like, not even, like, in a derogatory sense. It's a whole bunch of guys coming together, dressing up together, and making contact, playing a game, you know, and it's a real physical game, and then you shower after, you're slapping ass, and it's like, okay, like, I feel like once people, like, these bros start realizing, like, oh, this is, like, super gay, and it's cool, I think we'll move forward in society a lot. But yeah, so I was like, I don't care. Like, you're not gonna bang with me either way. So I'm gonna watch this. And so Jersey Devil, like these just weird games. I remember I got a demo for this and a pizza box. Kingdom Hearts was cool because it was like a fusion of like Final Fantasy and Disney, and in a 3D world, and I just really liked that a lot. And the music was really cool on that as well. The Final Fantasy music is always really like banging, but it was cool, like all orchestra, really hi-fi stuff. This is probably one of the biggest inspirations, Jet Set Radio, and again, it's another sort of self-love moment for me because, it's about these kids in Tokyo, and they're just doing graffiti. And graffiti, obviously, a big part of hip-hop in the black community that's, like, blown up all over the world. You can't go anywhere without seeing graffiti. And so it provided, like, another lens to be like, oh, there is really cool aspects to your culture, because, like, we don't talk about black culture in school. We don't glorify, like, anything black culture is kind of, like, vilified or talked about as, like, low art, and it's almost as if, like, we don't have a culture yet. It's probably one of the most present cultures syndicated around the world via memes nowadays, and music and graffiti. So it was like, all right, so we're doing cool stuff, and it made me really appreciate my culture some more. And it's also just a really cool game, also on Dreamcast. Yeah, we finessed it. It was cool. It was cool. And then, of course, Tekken, that was a big inspiration, and kind of like the thread, the sort of narrative thread to my first film, Glucose, and Katamari. I like it. Just a weird sort of game. You just roll up stuff, and it's just really cool. And sort of the aesthetics. This is kind of like the aesthetic I really like. Is like this sort of lo-fi 3D model, and you see everybody dressing like King today. You know what I'm saying? He was ahead of his time.
I got sweats and sneakers on right now.
The joggers and the sneakers, and he even got an Apple Watch. This came on like 1998. So, you know what I'm saying? The signs are there. The signs are clear. And I love Sonic the Hedgehog. That was really cool. Real fun game. And then so some contemporaries I really like art right now. Julian Glander, internet artist, illustrator. Got the pleasure to work with him and make this film called Plant Room. It's like a 360 sort of video, and yeah, it's really cool. You can't really tell here, but the phone says, like, I don't usually post stuff like this, but I was feeling cute, # might delete later. It's real funny stuff, just adding like just contemporary rhetoric in it. And then so Nikita Diacour, he's Berlin artist, I believe. Really cool 3D animator doing stuff, like he creates these marionette puppets, and really cool use of textures, and even the filming of his stuff is like the camera this guy is holding is actually like the like this is behind the scenes, so he kind of gives it like this steady cam look by actually giving the camera to a character that he's like puppeting. So it's like really cool ways to approach 3D animation, because there's no limits, and you don't just have to make a Pixar film or score like a Pixar audio or whatever. You can really push it, and I feel like now we're just now sort of scratching the surface of experimental 3D animation. David O'Reilly, big eye opener for me. He made this film, External World. That was a big inspiration to me. It's still a big inspiration to me because it doesn't follow like a normal format, much like my films do not. And then he did an episode of Adventure Time. So And then Masaki Yuasa, these are some of his works. Big inspiration. And the sound in Masaki Yuasa's film is really amazing. Cat Soup is a film this was also big inspiration. It's 24 minutes long. It's on YouTube. It's super cool. It'll definitely give you some inspiration on experimental sound and just experimental animation and film. And then this is more contemporary stuff that he did that you probably may have seen. Oh my God, it's your boy, and this is Masaki. I pulled up on him in Japan. I met him a couple times and it was cool. We went to Sundance together, or not together, but we linked up at Sundance. And Sundance is in Utah, so you can snowboard. So they gave us free lift tickets, so I showed him how to snowboard. Him and his producer had never snowboarded before, so that was cool. You know what I'm saying? The student became the teacher in a different arena, so to speak. So I'm gonna show you sort of some more clips because I started off as a musician. I still am a musician. So back in 2015, I started making, actually 2014, I started making animated music videos. And so like one got really popular and garnished a lot of attention and was even shown on Adult Swim. And once I got all that attention, I was like, all right, let me just try to do like just a straight up short film. So I'll show you a clip that got really popular. Well, not really popular, but popular for me, little Indiana boy, little Shine. Actually, let me show you the hi-fi clip, what I'm saying, high fidelity. Yeah, sorry, I'm using this Office Libre. It's like a sort of off-brand PowerPoint. So that sort of got my start into making short films and going into like the short films. I got the chance to explore like deeper concepts and things of that sort, like homage, talked about the Black experience and added a lot of motifs. I like to pay homage to the artists before me, like Masaki Yuasa, and this is like a scene from my film Glucose and a scene from his film Mind Game that I pretty much went frame by frame and remixed, because it's like a popular thing you do in the music world. If you really like an artist, you will remix their work. So that was kind of sort of my take on a visual remix, visual rehashing. Kehinde Wiley, big inspiration, because this one really made it click for me about like how beautiful his work is, because it's beautiful on an aesthetic level, but it's also really beautiful on a conceptual level, because this piece talks about how young Black men are just getting slaughtered on the streets, and these holes, these what do they call these flowers on his shirt sort of mirror bullet wounds, and I thought it was a beautiful depiction of that and a beautiful way to talk about, you know, like these crazy cops murdering kids, because just being a black person, you know, that's kind of like a fear you kind of you have, or at least something you have to be aware of, that the cops might kill you, because racism. But yeah, so that's something I use in my film when this character got murdered by the cops. Spoiler alert. Yeah, and then back to like King and Tekken, you know, that was something I really wanted to sort of allude to. And then Emory Douglas, big inspiration, and you know, that was kind of he was like the biggest inspiration to one of my films, You Can, or it's kind of like a music video, but you know, I looked at his stuff and took like a lot of inspiration from it. And I don't think Emory Douglas took this photo, but still it's like same canon sort of. And I talk about these things because it's I think pretty relevant in our culture today. I think a lot of white people are waking up, so to speak, but black people, you know, like I said about the cop thing, it's like in our face, you know, like if like you don't know that the cops might kill you, then you might die. You know, if you're just wilding out thinking like, oh, you know what I'm saying, I can do whatever, fuck this cop or whatever, he might kill you. Or, you know, if you're not aware of like how fucked this system is, you're gonna get caught by it. So this has been stuff like we've been screaming to one another, but white people have had the luxury to ignore it. However, I think with like Trump being elected, that has kind of like woken a bunch of white people up, because it's like, I mean, you can't really ignore the president saying like, we're gonna get these illegals and, you know, round them up, send them back, we're gonna kill some brown people, blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? You can't ignore it now. So like now I think a lot of these issues are coming back up, and it's nothing new, and I feel like if we don't talk about it, it's going to continue to happen. So that's why I think it's important to put it in my work, because people try to forget. And then so like each one of my films sort of is also, I feel like, parallels a Basquiat painting. Not that I try to do that, but he's a big inspiration to me, and my film Glucose sort of parallels this painting by Basquiat. It's really chaotic, has a lot of stuff going on, but it sort of tells the story of you know, the diaspora experience in America from its inception to now. And yeah, this is also sort of Glucose inspired, and this one, Riding Death by Basquiat, that was sort of like the film you saw, the first one, Octane. I showed that at the beginning. This parallels Octane, I felt like, you know. So motifs are important, kind of like I was talking about, like, because I like motifs because there are dark motifs in society that continue to happen, that I want to reflect in the motifs in my film. So like the money is a constant motif that I use in a lot of my films and a lot of my art, and it reoccurs, because there's a lot of things reoccurring in America, like for instance, this $5 bill, this says genocidal conquest, and it has a caricature of a native person with his head cut off and like cigarettes and stuff, because you know, I mean, a lot of like America's wealth is brought upon by genocidal conquest and telling the natives, okay, you can't be here, you got to go here. And if we talk about what's going on today, it's like white people still doing that. You know, they're like, oh, you can't cross this border. You know what I'm saying? Like, you're an immigrant, blah, blah, blah. When in actuality, they were descendants of the indigenous people. So you know, we don't want to talk about this genocidal conquest type shit. We don't want to talk about how this genocidal conquest was directly referenced by Hitler and his sort of conquest against the Jews. So it continues to happen today. You know what I'm saying? We act like it's like, oh, these immigrants, where are they coming from? Blah, blah, blah. You know where they're coming from. And so, like, the one on top, another motif in my films, but also a motif in society. You know, Africans were brought to this country and forced to work a lot. In the Caribbean, were forced to make sugar cane, and so the bars on the money sort of reflect the sugar cane. You know, it's supposed to be like sugar cane, but they also mean like jail bars. You know, because today, ever since slavery ended, that was pretty much when you had like a lot of runaway slave patrols, and well, actually, you had the runaway slave patrols, and then that once it ended, that turned into what we now know as the police force, especially like in the South, those slave militias, and they were, you know, working with the KKK back then, and so that's where it was founded. So like now, you know, when millions of black men are forced to go to jail, that's where a lot of products are made in America. So it's pretty much just the same thing, a little bit different nowadays. It's a sort of reformatted, rebranded slavery. It's kind of like Uber, but for slaves. That's where we're at now, because you know, like Amazon, they use tons of slave labor. Pretty much anything made in America is made essentially with slave labor. So these motifs in my film are also motifs in life, and you know, sad but true, and I want to talk about it. Oops. Yeah, and then, you know, character motifs and the drugs. You know, it's a wormhole we could get into in my work. We don't need to see the Octane clip. You saw Octane. So I'm going to just go through the process a little bit, and then wrap it up. My visual work starts off with just a drawing, you know, which is usually inspired by something. This one is Sonic. And then I take a picture of the drawing on my phone, and then sort of 3D model around the image. And I like the lo-fi aesthetic because I like to just create right on the edge of perception. So just giving you enough detail to know, you know, that's a mouth, that's an eye, etc., etc. And, you know, image tracing really helps you with that. And then a cool thing I like to do is, the cool thing about 3D is you can sort of iterate your models as time goes on, and you can recycle. So here I'm using like another model skeleton and hands for this Sonic model, so I'm not recreating the wheel every time. And then these shoes, you know, it's very detailed shoes. If I was 2D, I'd have to draw the shoes every time, every frame, but I have the luxury to just copy and paste, recolor, and you know, the more I use it, the more I tweak it. It's a nice little cheat code, but you could get sort of you don't want to box yourself in. You don't want to limit yourself. I always try to create as many models. Luckily for me, it's like 3D modeling is my favorite part of animating. So you know, I have no shortage of models or inspiration to create models. Yeah, and then, you know what I'm saying, you throw them in an environment. Cool Sonic, little earring. You know what I'm saying? He might be the type to just lean up on a wall and just put his arms like this. You know, you never know. He's laid back. So yeah, it's fun. I like to have fun. Imagine, you know, like what this character could be. I have an entire backstory for this dude. But yeah, and then so dynamic animation is sort of like a process that I think Nikita Diacour coined. He was that one of the artists I showed earlier, but it's pretty much just using physics dynamics to sort of help your animation. And this animation, it came about on accident, but I really liked it, so I kept using it. So I used Moy Bridges' photos of like animals running to animate, and I go frame by frame and animate the character, much like he did, to try to get as realistic as possible. But I still thought it was like mechanical, and the thing that inspired me to even make this like animation was I saw some cheetahs running in slow motion. I just liked how their bodies were like jiggling when they hit the ground and made impact. So I was like, how can I do that? So I tried. So an attempt to just like add some like undulations to their bodies as they ran. I added some physics, and it kind of went crazy. You see it leaving the skeleton, but I was like, I really like this. So I kept pushing with it. So yeah, just some animation tips. It's always good to finish what you start. A lot of times I feel like in the creative field, our work reaches this sort of pubescent state that's just really weird looking and uncanny, and we're just like, or weird sounding, and it's not quite there yet, and we're just like, what was I thinking? Fuck this. Let me just do something new. And it's like, I think it's important to just go ahead and try to just finish it, and then maybe come back tomorrow, and then you might find, at least I find, like 9 times out of 10 that it was like, actually I was right. I'm glad I did that, because like even with the Sonic thing, I made this exercise. I made the Sonic just for this presentation, but while doing it, I was like, this kind of looks silly. Like, fuck this. I'll just use something else. But then I was like, nah. Let's just finish it. And I was really proud with how it turned out. But sometimes you're gonna be like, yeah, that was stupid. But I feel like most times you'll be glad you did what you did, and try to stay driven. Animation and film can be very a long process. It's more of a marathon than a sprint, so it's good to stay motivated, and that's why I use topics that are particularly important to me, that I feel really vocal about. And like, you catch me at a party, I'm probably going to be talking about the struggle, what I'm saying, the getting it out the mud, because that's what I'm living. So that's what I put in my art. But your art doesn't have to be serious. It doesn't have to be as serious or whatever. Like, if you just are super into wood, like, just go hammer blammer on wood, what I'm saying? And you might find that there's an entire community that will embrace you and be like, please come talk at wood, knock on wood, 2019, we need you. Just whatever keeps you driven, whatever you like, just do that. Because like I was saying, like, people are going to judge you anyway. People are going to judge your art. Teachers will say, hey, you should try to do it more like this to get a job, blah, 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 or do this. But no matter what you do, people are gonna hate inevitably. So you might as well do what you want, and then always strive to just be better. Like, never get complacent. Really, where you're at in your creativity, because the cool thing about music and film is there's no limits, there's no rules, and you can always just push yourself. The rabbit hole is really deep. What I'm saying? Like, if you're doing visuals, you can go hard in just being the best animator of wood. I mean, I guess wood doesn't really move much, but like, you could be the best, like, whatever. You can go as deep as you want into just 3D modeling wood, and you can never, there's no plateau. You could be the best at whatever, what I'm saying? Like, so just never really give up. And I suppose the last little tip I didn't really add to this is, really dream big. A lot of people, even people in your corner, who have the best intentions for you, may give you advice that may lead you astray because they don't see the vision, especially if you're a person of color. Especially if you're a woman, what I'm saying? I've noticed that, us as men, we tend to, not like, really, like, we'll see a woman try to do something, be like, oh, let me help you with that. But it's like, you know, like, as a woman, like, if you feel like you can do it, like, be like, no, back off. Like, I got this. I can do this, you know? So, you know, never really if you feel like you can do something, just go for it, no matter how crazy it is. Because, you know, like, people were telling me when I was entering the film festivals, oh, this festival might not be the best fit for you right now in your career. You're just starting off. But I was like, fuck it, I want to do it. You know, I got in. And people, when I entered in Sundance, people were like, oh, you know, don't get your hopes up. It's really expensive. I don't know if you want to do it just yet. And I was like, well, I want to do it. I'll let them tell me not get my hopes up. And then I fucked around and won Best Animated Short. So, yeah, in conclusion, just be you, do what you want to do, and art's fun. Turn up. Thank you. I think we have a little time if you have any questions.
How did you move from making music into making animations?
Well, I just started, I was just doing them concurrently because I wanted to do animation. I wanted animated music videos, so what really made me really thrust myself into the animation world was that one clip I showed of like that music video. That music video garnished a lot of attention for the visuals and aesthetic quality and concepts talked about in it. So I was just like, all right, let me just zero in, because there's a lot of concepts I wanted to talk about that I didn't talk about that maybe didn't really fit in the context of a music video. So I was just like, let me just make a short film. And so from there, the film just started to, you know, blow up, and, you know, it's become more the focus, you know. So yeah, so that's how I started getting more into the visuals, and then it was just like people just started, they were like, they wanted to pay me to make animation, so I was like, yeah, sure, I'm trying to get this money, you know what I'm saying? I'm not trying to do the 9 to 5 thing. No disrespect, I wish I had it in me, but I've lost many a job for the silliest things. Like, I just love to sleep. And, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I wake up and be like, I really don't want to, I'm not ready to wake up yet. So, lose my job. So, it was kind of like, all right, yeah, I need to eat. And people are trying to pay to see this. So, let's go. But I also love it, too. You know, it's big. I love it.
When you started making the animations, did you feel like it opened up the possibilities for the music that you were making?
I think so, like, because it's just definitely gotten me a lot of attention, you know, and so off the hype of the films, you know, I can drop the music from the films and, you know, kind of get in there, but yeah, I mean, mainly it's mainly just been like animation, and, you know, I just kind of do the music for fun as a passion right now. But it has opened doors, because I've worked with you know, I worked with Alt J and Danny Brown on a music video, so it kind of gets me it gets my foot in the door in the music industry, for sure. I could show a little clip of that as well, and with no sound, while we answer these questions. But yeah, this one, and it's just, I just loaded it with as many concepts as I could. So yeah, I'll just kind of.
Oh, I can turn it down.
Yeah, I'll just keep it down, just if we have any questions. But.
Oh, right. So, like, a lot of the topics and motifs that, like, inspire your work, like, when you talk about it, just thinking about it kind of makes you angry, and, like, how is this still going on in 2018? But when you're, like, watching your short films, you kind of feel this sense of, like, euphoria or relaxation. So can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So, I mean, my first film was titled Glucose, because glucose is obviously a product that's very sweet and savory. However, the initial production of glucose was the most horrific part of the slave trade. Like, the practice was you buy slaves from Africa and you literally work them till they die. So it was really ironic to me that something that was worldwide, and you know, a delicacy, a sweet delicacy, had such a negative, like, dark conception. So that's kind of like a theme that is present in my films. Is I try to talk about these dark themes in a really sweet way, in a very inviting way and aesthetically pleasing way, to sort of draw people in and make these harsh realities a bit easier to swallow, you know. And like, just because a lot like rap, because like if you listen to what he's saying, you should go back, check out this video, and if you listen to what he's saying, it's really fucked up. A lot of times rap is like really, really fucked up if you want to hear what's going on right now, because, you know, like Young Thug, really popular artist, he'll make you dance to a song about the most horrific aspects of sex trafficking, you know, and people aren't really listening in, they don't really see it, but it gets in their subconscious, and, you know, people who are really tuned in, they really hear about all the fucked up shit. So but if somebody just came to you and just talked to you for 4 minutes about just a girl getting abducted, going missing, pronounced dead but still alive, but deeply ingrained in the sex trafficking industry, you'll be like, oh, okay, you know, it's too early for this type shit at any point of the day. But, you know, if it's in a nice song, people are more inclined to listen. So, including like this, and even the concepts that I explored in this one, or just kind of this how, like, you know, cocaine was introduced to America through like the CIA. Like CIA brought it into this country, gave it to black people sold it to black people to raise money for the Nicaraguan Contras to buy weapons, to destabilize their government. But you know, the cocaine was turned into crack, which devastated the black community and fueled the war on drugs, which was all just part of, you know, the continuation of slavery. I mean, this one is a bit more aesthetically dark too, but that's what I'm talking about in this. But in a pretty sweet way, or not sweet way, but a pretty visually appeasing way. So yeah, good question.
I have another question.
Yeah.
Do directors come to you for your like technical abilities, and then you have to like push back with your own like aesthetic and concepts, or like can you talk about that relationship at all?
Well, I feel truly blessed as a creative right now, because I have a very unique style, and I came out the gate really doing what I want, and people literally hit me up every day asking for work. So if it's something I don't want to do, I don't do it. However, so then it's more like somebody will come to me and you know, they'll come to me because they want my aesthetic. You know what I'm saying? Alt J is kind of on this like sort of lo-fi digital wave right now with their last album, Reduxer, whatever. And so when they were looking for artists, my name came up because that's just the style I have. That's just the stuff I put on my portfolio. Yeah, and I mean, that's just a good thing to do. Like, if you have a portfolio, you know, you should just put the stuff you want to do on it and really push the stuff you want to do, because people would just like see it and be like, oh, I kind of want that, but with this. That's like my favorite type of stuff to do, is when people are like, oh, I really like that, but can you do that, you know, with our brand or whatever. And then it's a really, you know, it's a really good way to kind of make some money, stay on brand, and push yourself forward, you know. But that's the beauty of having a really strong style, you know, and voice, is people will come to you for that explicitly. Yes.
What kind of sketchbook are you using for your sketches?
I mean, in New York, I like to use one of these, you know what I'm saying? 'Cause you can just put it in your pocket. I mean, this is like a Moleskine or whatever, and it's kind of expensive. But But you know, I have like my overhead is really like this is the computer I make all my stuff on, and my overhead is really low, so I just can ball out on sketchbooks. But it really doesn't matter. Muji, I like the Muji sketchbook. They have like a really nice sketchbook, and it's only like $1, and it has a really nice quality to it. But you know, I usually use a sketchbook, and I like these mechanical pencils. Like I like the 0.9 and the 0.7, like the big, cause I draw really like with really bold lines, and if the pencil is too tiny, then I break it. Break it a lot. I break a lot of pencil tips. That is. I don't know. Maybe it's some anger inside of me. Just, you know. But yeah. So that's what I do. And then
Oh, I'm sorry.
no, go on.
But I noticed you had like the dots, like it was graph paper.
Oh yeah.
Does that help with Blender, like constructing?
I used to just really like I used to draw all the time in class. I don't know if even we had a class together, but I never like I always would like drift off and just start drawing or whatever, or, like especially in math.
Rio was telling me how he would see you sketching by night, like
Yeah.
all the time.
Yeah, like cause like I would see like anytime I would see there's like a lot of cute faces in math equations, you know, that I would see, and so like I would end up drawing hella just really cute characters. Like I'd see like an equation. What was one? There was like a koala. I now only know how the koala looked, but I'm just used to drawing in math and on graph paper, so I just gravitate towards that. But I'm trying to see what this equation was. It was. Oh yes. It was like one of these. Gosh, it was here. I'll type it out for you. But this one, anytime I saw this, I was like, "Fuck, I'm about to just go in right now." But I saw this equation. A little bit behind the scenes action, but it was like those formulas would be like C, semicolon, 1, where equal sign equal, oh shit, equals, what the? I'm sorry, y'all. You see how bad I am in math. It's not, you can't really see it when it's typed, but I would see this and the ones like look like eyes and it looked like an ear, like the C was like an ear. You know, I know it's kind of tiny, but yeah, so like that's why I still kind of draw, because then I would use the grids, and I like drawing in the grids and stuff, but no, I prefer just a blank sheet of paper. That's a good question. That's a good question for sure. Yeah, and then, you know, I guess I could show you Blender for those who aren't familiar. It's kind of has a steep learning curve, but once you get into it, it's pretty sick. Let me see. Those are cool. Oh yeah, I've been working on a New York inspired one. This is something new that I've been doing. So I just really like creating worlds, and when I don't know, like when I'm not particularly inspired or don't really have like a story in mind, I'll just, you know, I used to have this digital camera, lost it, but I would take just pictures of graffiti. I really like graffiti and stuff, and take pictures of buildings and then just texture map it onto stuff. So it's just cool, and then because I know I'll eventually need to use a building. And then this was from a building in Berlin I thought was particularly cool. You know, I think here it is. The last thing I was working on was the satellite dishes, but you know, you can go and I literally just take a picture. I learned this from Nikita Diacour. I literally take a picture and then use the picture to map out the texture. You know, it starts off as something like this, and then I sort of build it into something like this. And this is the new wave. Oh wait, who is this? Cool little Sonic? All right, man, do your thing. He's out here maxing and relaxing, dude. Don't at him. And then here's a nice little subtlety. You know, I like to when his earring is a Sonic ring. we see this here. Oh, we can't really make it bigger, but it's a sonic ring, you know, little stuff like that. But yeah, so I mean, this was what I was working on recently, and yeah. Oh, okay. And since you guys stayed for the last, I'll show you something exclusive. Super exclusive. Don't tell nobody, but tell everybody. You know what I'm saying? You know, I worked my wrist in the video game, because actually my first thing I did, but even before animation, or I made a few animations, but they weren't popping. But the first thing I did was, what was it? I made some video game. I made a music video game. Blender has like a game engine. I made a music video game. Every level was a video game, a song. So that was cool. But again, like the game itself garnished more attention than the actual music. You know what I'm saying? People weren't really fucking with the concept. But you know, it was a cool video game. So now I'm getting back into making video games. And this video game is called Porn Stopper. And you work as a regional manager at this call center. And you have to stop your employees from watching porn on the clock. So this is just an initial build, you know, it's nothing too crazy. I'm working on the soundtrack as well as we speak, but you'll get to see it. And so pretty much the premise is you just run through this office. It's infinite. You run through this office and you just, as you can see, here's some like titties. You know what I'm saying? It's been cool making the porn for sure. But yeah, so they're watching porn, and then you have to throw a report at them. But you'll see, you'll pick it up quick. So here we go, just a quick build. So you see them, hey, cut that out. Cut that out. And you can see I got the score bunking too. Like, oh, wait till this hit the iOS market. This game over. No pun intended, but yeah, it's gonna be game over. Instant classic mode, you feel me? And it just goes forever. And then the final boss, like once you get enough people, the final boss will be, it'll be your boss, and you have to like, it'll be just kind of like a boss mode. He's throwing reports at you, you gotta throw reports at him, and then you know, the more reports you throw, he like gets into his final form, and it's like a physical male, but then he's so repressed. He's like a boss and has this, you know, sort of heterosexual image and man whatever to uphold, you know, that it all kind of like boils, and he's like, he rips everything off, and he's in all this BDSM stuff, and like he's wearing like fake titties, and he has like a double dildo strap on, you know what I'm saying, like at work. And you defeat him, and you go to check his computer, but it's frozen, and there's like hella viruses and stuff.
Don't tell him the end, though.
I gotta tell him the end.
Okay.
There's only 6 people.
That's fast.
Yeah, I'll tell him the end. Maybe pause the video or something.
That's facts.